Welcome, everyone, to the Co-Creators Convergence Thursday Night Creator Convo. I'm Noel Marshall, and I'm here with my beloved...
Hi, everybody. That's me. This is Bob. We're delighted to have you all with us on a beautiful Thursday evening, or some other time in some other time zone in the world, or whatever time it is when you're watching this in our archives on our co-creatorsconvergence.com website. And we are delighted to have Donna back with us again. We're learning so much about the Urantia book and all that study, and tonight to be learning more about the celestial helpers that we have. Some of us need to pay more attention to the help that we have. So Donna, wonderful to have you back with us again.
Oh, it's great to be with you both again, and thank you so much for having me back.
You bet.
Absolutely, what a treat. Well, I'm going to play a little video about the Co-Creators Convergence. So those of you who aren't that familiar with us, you can learn about who our founder is and how long we've been around, and what guests we have coming up. So just please stand by. So that is a little bit about the Co-Creators Convergence. So thank you all for coming. And as I said, if you have some questions or comments, you can put them in the chat until Donna opens it up. But let me tell you a little bit about Donna. She is a lifelong student of the Urantia Book and one of the first-time full-time ministers of the expanded gospel of Jesus based upon the Urantia Revelation. She is a renowned pioneer in celestial contact. She has also been the founder and executive director of the Institute of Christ Consciousness. In addition to an extensive spiritual healing and counseling ministry, she conducts workshops and seminars and hosts popular online sessions each week in which she leads groups in worship, prayer, and global healing. Donna's acclaimed titles are Teach Us to Love. I haven't read that one yet, but I know it's on my list. Divine Mother, Divine Father, and the women who love Jesus. Now that one I have read. So welcome back, Donna. It is a delight. The last time you were here, you shared so much about the Urantia Revelation, and maybe you'll explain about what the revelation is, the fourth or the fifth. And I'm going to bow out. I'm going to be here at your service. So whatever, I may pop in with questions every now and then. But definitely at the end, we'll open it up in the gallery for Q&A. So,
hey, one quick question, Noel. Will you be? Do I read the questions when they come in, or because I don't know if I can? I've got my reading glasses on. I should be able to see.
No, don't read the questions. Don't worry about the chat.
Oh, okay.
And don't worry about admitting people. We'll take care of all of that. I'll keep track of the questions and comments and bring it into you, when you think that's appropriate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you just be Donna, the super teacher in Urantia, you know, I'm not going to say expert, but you have just downloaded so much. It's been so helpful to so many.
Thank you.
And I just really appreciate that, and learning from you, and just love everything that you've done that I've
Thank you so
made
much.
myself aware of so far.
Thank you.
So right now I'm going to remove myself from the picture and turn it over to you. And Donna, would you please lead us in a meditation or prayer to open this up?
Certainly be happy to.
And
Yes.
then we can start.
Okay,
So here we go.
very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's just take a few minutes to center into our hearts. And close your eyes and take a few deep breaths, putting aside all of the pressures of daily living, and just be here and now in the present moment. And ask to be elevated into the level of your higher consciousness, that realm where you perceive truth, goodness, beauty, the splendor of the world all around, and the growing awareness of love and light and life. Just let yourself bask in that beautiful presence, what it means to be held in this sacred cradle of the divine. This is food for our souls. And sometimes we forget that our souls are just as important to us as our physical needs. Our soul needs are for love, for truth, for peace. And so in this moment, just let your soul feed on the divine, the energy of love, light, and life that is holding you secure. And then let us extend that energy from our hearts to connect with each one of us on this call tonight, forging a greater bond of love, compassion, and understanding. And as we move through our time together this evening, see if you can maintain that focus on your heart so that the information that is pressing, that is the information you're searching for, can come through, not necessarily through what I'm sharing with you, but from a higher source that is your divine source living within you. And then just take a moment to recenter yourself in the room and open your eyes, and we'll begin. I'm very delighted to be with you all tonight to share the really wonderful news about what is underway on this planet at this time. Even though at some level we're going through a period of what looks like to be quite a bit of chaos at the material level, what we are truly undertaking is a massive planetary upliftment to rejoin the rest of our universe family. I have been a student of the Urantia Book since 1975, and I was very much taken into a huge realm of discovery. What I came to appreciate was that our world had been quarantined from the rest of our universe family due to an event that happened here 250,000 years ago. It is an event that was not humanly created, and in the Urantia book, in part 2, they discuss what is known as the Lucifer Rebellion. Our planet is one of a conglomeration of many material worlds. And from the Urantia book's perspective, the authors, who are coming from much higher realms of consciousness than the level where we live, provided a much broader context for us to understand who we are, our relationship to deity, and the whole reality in which we live, the vast starry aggregation we might know as life. At our particular level, at the planetary level, we are administered by one administrative level above us that they call the system level. And our system leader at the time of the Lucifer Rebellion, which occurred 250,000 years ago, had the name of Lucifer. And there is a divine plan of evolution for each material world, such as ours, that actually comes from the very source of all life, the creator and the associate creator deities that exists in the realm of perfection, where everything exists as if it has always been perfect and always will be. Now, there's another level of reality, and that is a level where we live, where everything is evolving toward perfection. Our world and many worlds were not created to be perfect, where things operate perfectly. It is a big cosmic experiment, you might say, to one day replicate the level of perfection at the center of all reality. There are celestial personalities who are involved in shepherding or ministering worlds such as ours, from very primitive and crude levels of life up to a high planetary culture where you might consider we are living in an environment where there is no more war. Humans are peaceful, cooperative. We have no more poverty. We have no more what you might call economic or any level of inequality. It is a very different culture, and we might consider it to be what we might call heaven on earth. 250,000 years ago, the head of our system, Lucifer, decided he did not like the evolutionary plan of ascension. And in the Urantia book, in part 2, the Lucifer Rebellion, it goes into a lot of detail of what he claimed in his manifesto was the justification of taking our planet and 36 other planets under his jurisdiction of a possible 1,000 worlds off into a deviant plan of evolution. What happened on this planet was such an egregious violation of divine law and order that it has now taken us all of this time to start to get back on track. Time is not reckoned the same way we would do here in terms of the rest of the universe. So in terms of what our celestial helpers are telling us, this event that happened in our timeline 250,000 years ago is really only a matter of minutes. But the divine justice that is now underway on this planet is being administered by divine personalities and celestial helpers who function under the authority of the divine personalities to bring this planet back to its evolutionary divine plan of perfecting not only human life, but life for all here. That means animal life, plant life, the natural order of life. So one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight, not so much going into the effects of the Lucifer rebellion, because I think everyone has pretty good awareness of what we're seeing outplaying right now. There was an attempt to keep us separated from our Creator, from knowing who we are as loving children of a divine and benign, loving, affectionate, peaceful and benevolent Creator who loves us and wants us to become the best version of ourselves. Because each person has a divine plan that adds to the divine plan evolving on our planet. It's just that we have been so separated from the information of how to cultivate that, that now we are in a phase of correction, where we have immense help from the external worlds, some of the planets of our brothers and sisters who have returned here in a higher spiritual form to help us, divine personalities outlined in the Urantia book who are here to also help us move out of this terrible separation mindset where there is so much evil and greed and corruption on this world, which was never the plan for this world to evolve. And so I'd like to speak to you tonight about the wonderful spiritual helpers that we have that are not only internal within us, that are, you might say, hardwired into our minds and bodies, but also external to us. So if you want more information about the Lucifer Rebellion, a few years ago, I did a podcast called The Lucifer Rebellion, Adjudication and Correction, and you can find that on my website. And Noel, I can show you where that link is on my website if you want to post it for people to take a look at, because I go into a lot more detail about the nature of reality, how it's structured, and what Lucifer did on this planet to separate us from the divine plan of evolution. But the wonderful news that is so exciting is now we are in a recovery, a period to get back on track. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the internal spiritual system that we have within us. Each person is indwelt by a spirit of our Creator that exists at the level of what the Urantia book calls paradise, the level of perfection, where things have always existed in a state of perfection. It has always been, it is eternal, it is infinite, and we have a direct connection to our Creator, who has given us a divine plan and purpose for our lives to cultivate over the long course of our evolutionary career, to one day stand in front of our Creator as a spirit being. So we start out on this planet as a human, and we evolve and ascend through a vast realm of worlds where we undergo tremendous amount of training to understand the nature of this big cosmic reality we all share together, and the specific purposes for which we have been created to be who we are, not just for this human lifetime, but for lifetimes upon lifetimes upon lifetimes. And in the Urantia book, they do talk about the ascension career quite a bit to give us a much broader concept of what happens to us after we leave the physical body. So the indwelling spirit, or the word they use in the Urantia book, the thought adjuster, and that is its function. It is to adjust our thinking to the way our Creator would want us to think. And that would be basically to think loving thoughts, to be non-judgmental, to be kind, compassionate, forgiving, and understanding of our human nature and our human brothers and sisters. And then, because we live in a what you might call a time-space domain, we have two divine parents, a spirit mother and a spirit father, And they provide the template for our male-female composition. And from our Divine Father, we get a sense of validation of who we are as our right to exist. Our Divine Father reinforces us to evolve in the divine plans that have been given to us by our Creator. Our Divine Mother, you might call her the womb of consciousness. Our divine parents are the creator of the particular universe in which our planet resides. And our divine parents are here to support they have many functions, but the function that is most near and dear to us is to help us grow as evolving universe citizens in their universe. So we become upstanding members in that community, and we are living in ways that are according to the divine plans of life. Our mother is the womb of consciousness. Her domain pervades the whole region of our universe, and we are connected to her through 7 circuits that are connected into the chakras that provide us with the means to think, feel, and act. And so with our divine parents, they form the environment to provide us the means to grow strong and healthy in our spiritual nature and to help our human natures conform with more of who we really are as children of a loving Creator according to the divine plans that have been seeded into us. So that's kind of a nutshell. And in my on my website under the Path to Spiritual Growth, I have written about experiencing God and gone into a little bit more detail about these 3 spiritual personalities who have hardwired through spiritual circuits into us that we can actually make conscious contact when we learn to quiet our minds, let go of the chatter around us, the din of the world, and just sit and receive and begin to feel that underlying structure of divine love that just helps us feel more peaceful, loving, and coming out of a sense of unworthiness or any human feelings of guilt and shame that we may have experienced over the course of our lives. These are all antithetical to the way our Creator parents see us, and they want us to see ourselves the way they see the way they see us.
I think she'll have a podcast.
Maybe we can ask
Yeah.
about it in the Q&A.
Sorry.
Should we go to some Q&A?
I think you can go on. I'm learning. So
Okay, so you can, yeah. So one of the things, because they understood that we are living on a world that strayed from the divine plan, it was around 1985 or so, at the time of the harmonic convergence, there were some members in the Urantia community who were meditating and started to make contact with celestial helpers. And the information provided was that the rebellion had been adjudicated at the level where it began, at the system level, and that we had been in a state of quarantine from the rest of our universe family so that the virus, the infection of rebellion virus would not spread to other regions of the universe. So our circuits were reconnected by our loving Divine Mother. And at that time, there was this extraordinary, I guess I could use the word download, of spiritual personalities who were just appalled at what happened on this world and wanted to volunteer to come here to help us grow spiritually, to recover our divine inheritance, our spiritual value. And so I became involved in the early 90s with a group of spiritual teachers when I started to meditate and provide tremendous amount of information from a practical basis of how to overcome the deficits I was feeling in myself of feeling worthy, and the anger that I felt inside, things that I didn't understand where they were coming from. So now this is now 30 some years into what the celestial personalities call the correcting time to get our planet back on the trajectory of its divine evolution, so that there is much more correction that has been done in the planetary circuitry to clean up what you might call the muck and mire in human mind, human consciousness, that keeps us in a state of separation from our loving universe family and our creator deity parents. So we are 30 years into this time of correction, and there are different phases of the correction time. One of the things that I learned in the early 90s, when I started making contact with my celestial teachers, was that there was a lot of interference that was created within the circuits of our human consciousness to keep us separated from our divine inheritance. And so what I came to understand was that the way we think on this planet has been what you might call operating in a state of fragmentation. So when you think of all of the problems that we have on this planet, why people can't get along, the ego mind is rampant. This is all a byproduct of the Lucifer rebellion. And then about 10 years later, I started to hear the words generational healing. And my guides were telling me about how the subconscious mind has been infected by these thought forms of negative thinking, especially of unworthiness, like you have no value as a human, you are worthless, you have no power, you have no purpose. And basically that is what the rebellion mentality was there to do, was to keep us in a state of victimhood, denying us our rightful inheritance to be co-creators in our natural state of evolution, according to the divine plans of evolution for our world and the rest of the universe. So right now, we're in a phase where many, many light workers have devoted hours and hours of time working with celestial personalities at all levels to clean up this virus of separation on the planet. It has been threaded into our DNA. Our DNA evolved for 250,000 years in a separation mentality. One of the things that I have been involved in is to go into the subconscious mind when I do healing sessions with people, and to pinpoint where those areas are of connection to this virus of separation, and to hold a space for our divine parents to come into the root cause and to correct the way a person thinks and feels, so that the emotional charge within the memory system or the mental trajectory of the energy that points a person into a negative direction can be turned around and faced toward the indwelling spirit, where there's spiritual gravity that pulls human thought along the lines of the way the Creator wants us to think. So this is actually a very big deal, and I'm kind of giving you the cliff notes here right now. But there are a variety of divine personalities who are helping us recreate the structural integrity of human consciousness, so that we are able to think with a clearer mind, devoid of all of this separation thinking that keeps us in a state of corruption and greed, confusion. And I will say this, and this is one of the big problems that we're seeing now. We are seeing a power structure that has been influenced by the rebellion, that has maintained control on this planet and has influenced all of our social institutions, religion, science, governance, business and industry. This has its roots in the rebellion. And in my podcast from 2021, I talk about this and how it began. And so we are in the phases of correction now, and we can see what is happening on the planet when there is so much evil being exposed, and a lot of people don't understand where this is coming from. It's coming from this rebellion. It's coming from years and years and century and millennia I would say de-evolution, where we've limped along to evolve our planet into a higher, beautiful culture where there's love and peace and abundance for all, and we're sharing in community, we're growing together, we're supporting one another with love and compassion. It's completely antithetical to the way we have been living, and we will eventually outwork the human need for war and greed and corruption. This is all starting to dissipate from our memory system. And so one of the things we do at the ICC is to go into the memory circuits in not only the individual healing that I do, but in the group meditation calls that are conducted twice a month on Sundays, the second and fourth Sundays at 12 p.m., where we are working with divine personalities and basically saying, okay, we do not want this rebellion mindset on the planet. And we are willing to hold a space for you to bring in the corrective circuits of love and light, and to remove this language of rebellion, this language of separation, so we can think with clearer minds and open hearts, and we feel our innate value and our soul purpose. Because everyone has a purpose for why they're here, and everyone has tremendous gifts and abilities, but a lot of times we don't develop them because we don't feel worthy. And so this is a time now where this separation mentality needs to be expunged from our memory systems, so the spirit within us is able to rise into our minds and to show us, yes, you are beautiful, you are worthy, you have purpose, you have meaning, your life has meaning, and you can co-create with me in the ways that you can hardly even imagine. It's really regaining our trust in the loving nature of spirit and spiritual reality, so we can get back on track and build a world that works for everyone. So I'd like to just stop here for a few minutes and see if there's any questions. I think I need a little bit of a break to kind of.
Well, Donna, you know I have questions. So thank you. One thing, so I don't want to dwell too much on the Lucifer rebellion, but our planet was quarantined. You said 37 were. Have any of them made it out of quarantine?
That is information that I am not privy to, but
No.
I would imagine that, since from what our celestial teachers have told us, that since the rebellion was adjudicated at the system level, those 37 planets, such as ours, are now in the process of being rehabilitated. And I believe there probably is a rehabilitation plan that is specific for each planet. Our planet was unique insofar as we had two what you might call diversions of the divine plan of evolution. And that might be the topic of another one, because it has to do with the true story of Adam and Eve. That is very, very interesting from the Urantia Book perspective, because Adam and Eve, from the Urantia Book perspective, were our biological uplifters. And I'll just go briefly into their purpose.
Please.
They were here to actually spiritually uplift the indigenous population, to help us become more spiritual. And they had a higher level of DNA that had qualities such as playfulness and humor and creativity. And unfortunately, because of the rebellion, their mission got ensnared with the sophistries of the rebellion, and they did insert a lot of their higher DNA into the human genome, but not to the degree that was originally planned for us. And so one of the things that is happening now is there are corrections being made in our DNA to clean up this virus of the rebellion, and to insert new coding of a higher spiritual nature, to help us not only help our bodies become more disease resistant to the pathogens on the planet, but to instill in us a higher sense of purpose, spirituality, humor, playfulness, joy, creativity. So it's a wonderful dispensation. It's a compensation that our Divine Mother and Father are providing to us now to make up for that lack of that higher Adam and Eve DNA, which we should have had by now. So that's another huge story, but that's kind of like, it's happening right now, but it's just like a little bit of a different flavor, you know, to discuss. So I do work with Adam and Eve in my healing sessions with people to bring them in to insert the higher, what they call it, like violet light DNA into a person. And it's so wonderful when they bring it in. It's just like this even energy where, you know, it just kind of takes all that frenetic energy that we have in our minds and bodies, and it just smooths it out, you know, and it really helps a person remain more peaceful. And it's very lovely. So it's another wonderful blessing that we're being given as part of the celestial correction that's underway right now.
Awesome. Thank you. I see Jack has his hand up, and if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question or comment, Jack, go ahead.
All right. I don't know if any of you have heard of a person named Greg Braden.
Yes.
So you have. Well,
Oh, yes.
Guy, and he goes all over the world, and he's on a very, I don't know, very unique person. I mean, he has a lot of interest, a lot of knowledge. Anyway, without taking much time, he, through various scientists that he talks to on a regular basis, talks about the idea that about 220,000 years ago, which isn't that far from the 250,000 years ago, that there was a kind of a DNA change in human beings that science has not been able to look at in terms of evolution, that they are pretty positive that there was an intervention from somewhere outside the human species that changed our DNA beyond which evolution could have done that. What do you think? You probably heard Braden talk about that, maybe.
I haven't been following him. You know, I know of some of his work, but I will say from my experience in working in these deep memory circuits of DNA and what the rebellion did, that is correct, that there was an end. This is what Lucifer and the spiritual head of our planet, who was known as Caligastia, who sided with Lucifer to take our planet off the divine plan of evolution. They understood how the human DNA structure was composed. They understood how consciousness worked. They did not like the divine plan of evolution. So they devised a very, very brilliant, insidious plan to insert into our DNA a deviant form that should never have been there, never have been there. And that created a virus of separation in our evolutionary nature. And this has been a very big thing to outwork. And now we are in the processes of getting that corrected. I have seen, when I work in these fields, and I've seen that nasty DNA, it has coding. It has information that is anti-God, anti-creator, anti-life. It's like a perversion of human consciousness to keep us stuck. Because essentially what Lucifer wanted to do was to be the sovereign in his own creation, where he could do whatever he wanted to do with the humans and the other celestials who were under his authority. And that is not allowed. He would have evolved to a higher level of consciousness had he followed his own divine plan that was mandated for his particular part of the system where he was the head. But he didn't like that. He wanted to speed it up. And you cannot alter, I mean, you can interfere with what is divinely given, but you cannot change it. And so instead of being able to change the divine plan, they did everything in their power to interfere with it. And that's been some of the work that I've been doing at the ICC, is to help people unplug from that, to get that nasty, nasty coding completely out of the human mind body system. And it's not been an easy task, I'll tell you. It's been very difficult. But we're at a point now, because of all of the circuitry correction that's been underway for the last 30 some years, that there's a lot more light on the planet, and it's easier to extract these codes from the DNA. And what happens is, when the old codes are extracted, there is like an exchange of energy, and there's a release of what you might call static energy. I used to see it come out as black smoke, but now it's just more static, like what you would see on a TV screen. And so then the new codes, the divine codes, are coming in, and that's one of the things that Adam and Eve are putting in. There's like this spiraling an imprint, and the codes are not just words. There's color, sound, geometry, language. It's very, very complex, and it takes time to integrate into the whole human system. But one of the things I hear from people is they feel like a big weight is lifted off their shoulders. Like they feel like they're beginning to have some space and more light within their bodies. And that's a really good thing, because let's face it, we've been very, very energetically constipated. And it's time for all this to go, because that was never the intention for us. And we are just now in the early stages of recovering our beautiful divine inheritance, which is going to mean that we can create a much better world for future generations, especially the children who are coming in, who have been already, what you might say, pre-wired for spiritual receptivity. You know, the starseed children, the crystal children, these children coming into the planet need a lot of spiritual energy. And there is a faction on the planet that's trying to interfere with their spiritual development. So it's a big deal what we're going through right now. It's the biggest news on the planet, but you won't see it covered on mainstream media, that's for sure.
Right. Thank you, Jack, for that question. And
I hope that answered his question.
I think you did. And I think you might have answered Jackie's as well. How was the DNA being corrected?
Wow. Well, it's complex, like I said, and I can't say that I have the full picture, but from my experience, what I see is, like, the first thing that comes in, there is a higher spark of light energy, a higher frequency that breaks up the old coding. And so the first thing that happens is the energy comes out, and then it's like the coding comes out. It's like scripting of language that basically, to me, it's a form of self-sabotage. You know, when you know that you don't want to do something, but you do it anyway. You know, it's like language that keeps us stuck from moving forward. So once that language is kind of moved out, pulled out, then that spiral of new language I'm going to say coding comes in, because it is very energetically rich. It has, like I said, it has sound, color, texture, geometry, wording, word coding. And it does take time to come into the whole structure. Sometimes I work in the memory circuits, and we work in mental or emotional memory, and sometimes it goes down into cell memory. So it's a very complex process, because we are very big energy beings. You know, it's not just in our body, it's in our auric fields, if you will. There's a whole memory circuit that is very, very interconnected within our human energy system. And this is one of the things that, you know, I think is going to be a really beautiful realm of discovery in the next generation. It's beginning now, you know, people like what Jack was talking about, Greg Braden, understanding some of these concepts, but it goes beyond that because it's coming, you know, it's the correction of all of these erroneous codes that we should never have had, and bringing in the correct code that takes time to integrate into the mind-body structure. It's a big restructuring process, and it's beautiful when it comes in because it really brings a person kind of back to what you might call a more crystalline, translucent structure that our bodies need right now.
Excellent. Jackie has a related question. How closely does the Rebel Angel books by Timothy Wiley align with our history? Are you familiar with those?
Yes, I have read some of them, and that's another piece of what happened here. There were a variety of at the system level, there are a wide variety of angelic and other personalities who live at that level. It's not a physical level, it's a quasi-spiritual level. And they rebelled, and they've had to undergo their own redemption process. And so they are back on the planet. Those are the ones who actually chose to be redeemed instead of, you know, saying they didn't want to be rehabilitated from the rebellion. You have to keep in mind that Lucifer was a brilliant spiritual personality. And the beings that live in this level above us, they're not perfect. They evolved just like we do, only in a different, for a different function than what humans are created for. So they're not perfect. And when your so-called leader tells you to do something that is different from the divine plan, a lot of those personalities, those celestial personalities, got caught up in the sophistry, and they didn't understand what was happening. And so when the system went through its adjudication process for divine justice to occur at that level, many of them chose to be rehabilitated, and some were brought back to this planet to understand the actual implication of what they were involved in, to have direct human experience of what it meant to willingly lead a person astray. It's quite complex, and I'm just kind of touching on the most rudimentary parts of this. But from a cosmic perspective, this world is very unusual, and we are going to be learning more in the future about what happened here on the planet due to the rebellion. This is a big story that more people are going to be talking about in time once we get through this part where we're actually in the adjudication period, where everyone is now being given a choice of whether or not they're going to open up to their spiritual potential or stay stuck in these ways of evil and corruption and greed. So we're right in the thick of it right now. But once we get on the other side of it, there's going to be a lot more interest in learning about these facets of the rebellion and why it happened, and the incredible rehabilitation plan that's underway to help us understand who we really are and our role in the evolution of our universe and beyond that. Big deal. Very
big job.
big job.
This is kind of sounds related. Christy asks, are we going to have divine justice here?
We're in the process. That's what we're seeing right now. We are seeing what you might call separating the wheat from the weeds, or the wheat from the chaff. And we're right in the thick of it. That's why it's so intense right now.
Oh, it's intense.
Because there are bloodline families that grew up from the rebellion. From 250,000 years, they have DNA in them that wants to retain the Luciferic agenda. I'm not going to go into all of that because, you know, a lot of people are talking about that now. But we are in the process of divine justice. We're in the period of reckoning. And what happens in the reckoning is all of this evil is being exposed for us to make a decision, and everyone has to decide. Now, there is a window of opportunity that we get to decide, and it's been going on for a few years, and I don't know how long it's going to be maintained, because the potential for us to destroy our planet is so high right now, and that is something that our creators do not want us to do. Absolutely do not want us to do. And they're making every provision available. And they're even doing things to stop the destructive ways that we're doing, in ways that I don't even understand, you know, that they can change different energies and kind of manipulate things so that, you know, these catastrophic events will not happen. But a lot of it is contingent upon we as humans and our will, our free will choice to say, no, we do not want these planetary cataclysmic events to happen. And that's why it's really important for people to meditate and pray together in global groups. So we're staving off that possible destruction and co-creating this beautiful world, which is now in the process of forming and getting more anchored into some of our bodies and our minds, so that we're thinking better thoughts. We're thinking more about love and wanting to be kind to one another and wanting to share and just, you know, get along, you know, and get out of this whole nasty polarity division that's being fomented by certain quarters on our planet. So we're right in the thick of it, and it's very intense. And that's one of the things that I want to support people, you know, to help them feel less of that intensity and more of their soul purpose, so they can be co-creators in this beautiful thing that we're all building together.
Well, I vote for that. We actually have someone on the call who was just at the Urantia Foundation in Chicago this morning.
Okay.
Maybe he'll unmask himself and have a few comments. I do have a question about the Divine Mother and the 7 circuits, you know, related to our chakras. But don't we have many more than 7 chakras?
Oh, well, there are minor ones too, but I basically work with the 7 circuits, and on my website, I do talk about them under the human system of consciousness and talk about the Divine Mother. She actually imbues us with 7 spiritual circuits, that one of them rooted at the root chakra is the spirit of intuition. And that gives us that ability to think quickly. And it's kind of like the most fundamental energy exchange within our bodies. And all life is minded with that spirit of intuition. It gives even like a one-celled organism the ability to operate. So everything comes from our mother. And so the 7 circuits are the spirit of intuition, the root, spirit of understanding at the sacral. And that one gives us the ability to form thoughts together. And so the circuits build upon one another to give us higher abilities to think and feel and reason. And so it moves up through the spirit of courage at the solar plexus, spirit of knowledge at the heart, spirit of counsel at the throat, that's the communication chakra, spirit of worship at the third eye, that gives us the ability to recognize deity, and then at the crown, the spirit of wisdom, that helps us obtain the correct information that our spirits want to provide us with a higher universe perspective. Now, there are chakras above that, but that's a little bit more advanced. And right now we're still kind of, you know, we're kind of getting weaned into a higher universe circuitry structure. So, you know, I have no idea, you know, how it's going to affect our chakras in the future, but there is, you know, incredible downloads coming in through the chakras to help clean up all of the interference we have within our minds, so that we have this open channel, if you will, to our Divine Mother and Father and to the spirit within us. So we are thinking more, what you might call more godly thoughts and acting in more godly ways.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone else has any questions. If not, you can put them in the chat, or I'll turn on your video and I'll bring you into the conversation. I don't mean to hog everything here. We want to share and co-create. But okay, I think I was gonna add Bob, but he disappeared. There he is. Okay.
Right here, right here. I, I'd like to hear a little bit more about 1987. You mentioned the harmonic convergence, and the note I wrote was Mother reconnecting us. I don't think you used these words, to the path. Could you share a little bit more about what happened during that time for us as it relates to everything that you're talking about?
You know, I don't really have a lot of information. This is the information that I've learned from a wide variety of celestial information that was coming into a number of people who were receiving it within the Urantia community.
Mm.
But it was around 1985, 1987. Now, our timelines are going to not also always line up exactly because it's coming from a higher dimensional level. But it was around that time when the system, the administrative level above our planet, went through its adjudication process. And that means that those spiritual personalities who went into rebellion against the divine plan were given a choice: either be rehabilitated, become aware of your errors, and choose the path of righteousness, the path of godliness, or what happens is they are made as if they never were. They go through they are, well, the best way I can explain it is, you know, that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, when Jimmy Stewart has that experience where he never was. So they're made as if they never were. So around that time, apparently it was deemed appropriate because the system had been stabilized and cleared off of the rebellion energy. Then the circuits from the system that were disconnected started coming into the planet. And then there was this major outpouring of spiritual personalities who were being prepared to come to the planet to connect with human mind, feed us with higher information, the information that we should have learned, but we were sequestered from learning that because of the rebellion. And so that was the start of it back then. And if you remember, in the early 90s, there was a proliferation of many spiritual books. Gary Zukav, I think it was The Seed of the Soul. I don't remember the actual titles, but
Yep.
you know, Marianne Williamson started coming out with all of her books. Even Oprah Winfrey did a segment on, I think, Speaking to Spirit on her show. That was in the early 90s, and that proliferation was really, really intense. And then after a few years, things changed, and I think that the rebellion powers that were on the planet did not like that. And then there was more interference, and now, but the light workers were still holding the higher energies and still working to bring that in. And you know, there were a number of us who were in the Urantia community that were receiving the information and doing energy work to help people. So it was a massive undertaking, you know, by our divine parents, to provide us with universe helpers to help us open up to this higher information. And it wasn't so much that it was new information that was in the Urantia book so much. It was more like practical lessons of how to deal with living on a planet where you have to, you know, you're faced with so much negativity, you know, how to remain peaceful and forgiving with people who would rebuke you or revile you, you know, and it's really basically, for me, the biggest part of the book is the life and teachings of Jesus, because he was here to show us the godly path. And it's really getting back down to living the teachings that he left us with, different from the Christian gospel. Very different from the Christian gospel, but living according to love, connecting with the Creator, loving service to humanity. And that's basically what we're in now, you know, regaining the true living of the gospel of Jesus and coming back to our divine inheritance and living as godly men and women on this planet, the best of our ability.
Yeah, it seems, thank you for that. It seems that I think back to that time, early 90s, like you're saying, many spiritual books coming out, that sort of thing. And just time fades our memory about current events of the time back then, but it seems now that it's more, there's even more angst in declaring someone who has a different ideological thought than you, or political view, or view of everything and anything. Now it feels like there's this separation that says we're being programmed to declare the other, whatever the others is, to be like our arch enemy, to be something other than our brother, our spiritual brother and sister.
That is true. And part of it is intentional to help us see what is truly evil and what is truly good. And it's been very difficult for we humans because we have been infected with this rebellion virus for so many millennia in our DNA that you can hear a sophistry and it can sound good, but maybe in the long run, it's not good for us. It's not healthy for us. You know, like immediate gratification. We live in a culture where we can get our needs met immediately, but does that provide us with the spiritual quality of patience, forbearance, trust in ourselves, trust in one another? So yeah, it's not only a time of separation, but it's also a time of unification. So as more people evolve out of this rebellion mindset, we are finding community. We are finding those people that we resonate with who share those same values. It's a value shift, and it's not an intellectual thing. It's a heart value-based system that we're moving into, so that because we have developed very much in our intellectual understanding of the nature of reality, but our emotionality has not kind of kept up with that. So
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed. Thank
so
you.
that we're loving and respectful of one another's opinions. So yeah, we're going through a heck of a time right now, but we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. We are getting through it. And it's people like you and doing these podcasts and getting this information out, you know, that's attracting more hearts to this great co-creative adventure we're on right now.
Well, we
Thanks.
do have another
Thanks.
question here. Thank you for that, Donna. Robert would like to know, has anything been revealed concerning teachers coming on the level of magisterial sons or Trinity teacher sons?
Yes. This is another level of spiritual rehabilitation for the planet that is designed to teach us higher universe principles. And I believe that there will be a time when these high universe beings or super universe teachers that are coming from extraordinary high levels of reality will be here in physical form to instruct we humans into these higher ways of life. We are in a huge catch-up phase right now. Had this world not participated in the rebellion, we would have outworked all of our social problems by now, I believe. We would be living in such a different culture. It would be like heaven on earth. So we're in this process of a major catch-up. And that's why they're making such an effort to raise our consciousness so that we have the capacity to receive this higher information and then work or collaborate and learn from these higher teachers who want us to give us even bigger levels of information so we can get this planet back on track in a way that will be much more expedient than the way we've been evolving. Now, when that will happen, I'm not getting any advanced information, but I do know from the prayer group that I conduct on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock that it does feel like that level of energy is coming closer to the earth plane, and they are making more of an effort to reach more humans to help us awaken to that possibility. And I would say it's more of an eventuality, but I don't know when that will be exactly. I hope it's soon, because I want to get the show on the road.
I think you get a unanimous endorsement of that. Well, I don't see any other questions, so I want to know about, you've said celestial beings, and we've heard a lot of different names for them. Whether they're saints, whether they're ascended masters, but then there's also this whole other part about what do I say? Non-terrestrial beings, and some of whom are, friendly to us, most of us, and some that are, I guess more of the Lucifer. So when in 1985 happened, 87 happened, and the adjudication was done, then I understand it was kind of like a veil was lifted and more of these different beings could come in. And are they all, benevolent?
Well, this is a very controversial subject you're touching upon. Now, because there were 37 planets that rebelled, the Urantia book does not go into any detail of what level of development the other planets were what they've achieved. So there could have been planets that were further advanced than us, and Lucifer and his minions, in their nefarious activities, probably got some of those other advanced planets to do some not so good things with the other lowly planets, such as where we were at our stage of evolutionary development, to interfere with our evolution. I do believe in time, all of this information will come out. I think it's coming out in drips and drabs right now. I use the term celestial helpers as kind of like a blanket term, because the level of personalities involved, for example, we have angels or seraphim who are operating on the planet to help us in our social institutions to regain their rightful function. We have personal guardian seraphim. There are human will creatures from other planets who have reached higher levels of development, who have volunteered to come back here on the planet to help. So there's a wide variety of helpers. There are universe teachers, the Melchizedeks, who are here to provide us with a higher universe curriculum. It's very, very complex. And at some point in time, I do believe we'll be able to see a bigger picture, and maybe we'll even get kind of like a quote unquote movie and have higher vision to see some of these beautiful plans of correction. But we're not there yet because we're still undergoing this adjudication process. But once we get through that, it's going to be so much easier and so much more joyful for people to experience what their humanity is, instead of, like, oh, trudging through the mud every day, oh, when's it going to end, and we're right in that crucial juxtaposition point. So yeah, I'm very hopeful that we will get full exposure of all of the help that we have access to, and the more you raise your vibration rate, the more you make contact with your spirit and your helpers, then that helps to expand some of your sensory capacity so you can receive the higher information too. So that's another thing that's happening. We're all being encouraged to open this higher universe door of exploration. We have a right to it. I mean, after all, we're members of a loving universe family, and it's our divine birthright to know this information. So, but it's up to us to ask for it and to explore it.
Okay. Well, I have another question. You talk about DNA and it being modified and things like that. And from what I understand, we only understand about 2% of our DNA, and they call the rest junk.
Well, that's a limitation of science. DNA is much more complex, and believe me, I am not an expert in it at all. I know from my experience what I see in healing sessions and when I work with people. But I also think that what the rebels did was to probably turn off a lot of our genetic potential, to keep us stuck in these lower states of victimhood, separation, duality, unworthiness, all those lower vibrations. In time, we will know more. And that is one of the endowments of the Adamic DNA, is to provide us with a much broader bandwidth of the DNA capacity. I can't speak to all of that, what that is, because I just see it come in certain forms. And it's like when I'm watching it come in, I have to keep my mind out of it because I'm very curious to know, what is this? What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And I can't do that, otherwise the flow stops. But it does contain a wide variety of information. And as that integrates into a person, then that person starts to have like a bigger bandwidth of feelings or thoughts coming in, and then it somehow does integrate into the body. But that's going to be another level of discovery that I think we're going to be going into in a few years, and understanding more about that. So
Yeah, it's just so they will expand the Urantia book, expanded my consciousness so much, because it gave us such a giant cosmological viewpoint.
exactly.
So I was just kind of thinking, well, could they do that for the DNA too? Go in.
Well, I think so. But it's not something that can come in quite rapidly. It has to be integrated. There's still some residues of that rebellion virus in human mind and body right now. But I think once we get all of that out through this period of adjudication, then we'll be able to advance more rapidly in a safer way. So it's a lot of unknowns, Noel. Really, there's just so much to learn. I mean, this will pique our curiosity for a long time to come. We've got a lot of catching up to do.
I guess they didn't want to fry our brains all together.
Right.
I'm sorry. Jack, if you'd like to unmute, and you have another question. Wonderful.
Yeah, well, it's not so much a question, but you were talking about the DNA and something, I don't know, 80, 90, whatever percentage they say is junk. But I've paid attention to some I don't know, webinars, information from the current science, and the claim now is that now there are some that have already figured out that DNA is not junk, that there's things that it does do, and you're right, it's been called junk for almost all of our lives. This is a very, very recent discovery, but yeah, we're getting to the point where they're realizing that junk DNA is not junk.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows for sure, but I mean, that's what they're coming up with.
I agree. And, I think that is a little bit of the arrogance of scientists who, when they don't understand something, they just discard it because it doesn't fit their paradigm of understanding, right? So yeah, there are scientists who have more of an inquisitive mind, an open mind, and are willing to go outside of the traditional orthodoxy of the scientific model and explore. And those are the people who get the information. We have to be open-minded here. We have to move outside of what we think we know and feel, and be willing to explore this realm. So yeah, that's very important. And I think that if science is able to humble itself in the midst of the great mystery of life, that will be in a much better position to learn the things that they want to share with us.
Well, Christy points out that God does not make junk.
Absolutely. Correct. Absolutely.
It's like, it's not really related, but I grew up, my mother had an antique shop, and people, it was a huge antique shop in Washington, D.C. area. and people would come in and, some people go, oh, that's wonderful. And some people would, they would say, well, how much is this? And you'd say, well, this is how much it is, and this is what it is. And they go like, for that? It's kind of like, you're asking that for that piece of junk? And then you go like, oh, okay. It's because I had no understanding of what it was. It's it's a weak little metaphor there, but it's kind of like
Well,
so
but
much
it's
we don't
true.
understand.
Yeah, it's true. And that has been part of the rebellion legacy, to keep us in these narrow, confined boxes of thinking. And that orthodoxy is spread throughout all of our social institutions, particularly religion. And that's another whole area of discussion. But that orthodoxy is what we need to take down and have the humility to say, we don't know. And just by admitting that opens the door for more information to come in.
It was a real lesson to me, because when I would look at, go to some museums or other things, and there are just things that I would think like, oh, that doesn't appeal to me at all, and I'm just like, well, I have no idea what the concept of the artist was trying to, gave me an appreciation to appreciate what I don't know, and,
Yeah.
to keep that open mind.
Yeah.
But
That's a gift, to be open-minded. It really is. And a lot of people don't have that right now.
well, it is a work in progress. I'll have to say that.
Hey, at least, that's a start, and from that, then much more understanding can come in. So it's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to give you at the end, usually ask an off the wall question, but it's not off the wall. I know on one of your talks, you had talked about Montserratson,
Manjaranson.
Montgeronson. And would he be one of your celestial helpers, or would he be could you
He-
explain to us a little
Yes.
bit about, and he
Yes.
communicates with you regularly?
Well, this is what we do on the Sunday call. He
Okay,
is
good.
the divine personality that is here to administer divine justice. He is he's a divine personality who originates from the level of paradise. And the function of this level of personality, he's part of an order. They call it the Avonal Sun. That's in part 1 of the Urantia book, where they talk about the different levels of creator beings who have different functions in the time-space universe. And one of the functions of the Avonal Sons, and the name we were given, is Manjaranson. Now, is that the right name? I don't know. It's just the name that was, coming through. But the function of that personality is to help us with to administer divine justice on the planet. And all that means is providing the correct environment to give us the ability to choose, to see a higher level of reality, and to make the decision to move forward in our ascension journey toward God consciousness, higher consciousness, Christ consciousness, or to stay stuck into these rebellion ways. And so we're going through this period of reckoning so we can make that choice and see truly what is good and what is evil, so we can make that reckoning and reconciliation. So he is here with the incredible amount of spiritual energy to provide us with this environment in which to make that decision. That's the simplified version of it. And I'm sure it's much broader than that, but for our little human minds, they give us as much as we can understand. But when we have those sessions on the Sunday calls, the energy is such a high frequency, and the compassion and the mercy for us is so beautiful to experience. It's like, why would you fear this? There's nothing to fear. It's all love. It's all understanding of the frailty of our human nature. And they want us to make this choice with the greatest amount of love and value of ourselves. So it's a really beautiful thing for a planet to undergo its adjudication. Now, will everyone accept it? It's an individual choice. and how are people going to react to that when they are given that choice? And like, this is what we're going through the awakening process. You know, people are awakening now. Some are going to have a harder time because they've been mired in so much negativity. But that's, you know, it's an individual choice, so it's not up to us to judge, but they are taking care of it at that divine level through his ministry to us right now.
And Jesus is also part of that. When you have your
Yes.
conversations, do they work
Yeah.
together, or are they?
Yes, they do work together. Jesus is actually the human name of our divine father, Michael.
Michael.
He is the father. He is the creator of our universe. He selected this world to incarnate for his last bestowal. He actually has to undergo 7 bestowals of the actual beings or personalities he creates in order for him to be a sovereign in his own universe, where he can make decisions and do whatever he wants to do with his creation. It's a long training program that he has to undergo to be sovereign. And that's all explained in the Urantia book too.
But he's done all that, hasn't he?
He has done now. Jesus was his 7th bestowal.
Right.
And he was here to 2 things: to reveal the loving nature of our creator to humanity, and to show us how we could live a God-centered life. Not necessarily the way he experienced it in his material life, but to follow his example of being loving and kind and forgiving and merciful. And so when we do these sessions on Sunday, Michael is coming in and he's imprinting his divine qualities upon our human natures to give us a greater capacity to be like him, to be more loving, to be more understanding of our brothers and sisters, especially the ones we disagree with, and to learn how to hold our own intrinsic value against someone who may want to devalue us because they don't agree with us or they don't like us. And so usually what happens the first time is we're imprinting upon his divine qualities, and then we're growing in that. And then Manjaransan comes in and he's working in the collective. So Michael is more for the individual. Manjaransan is for the collective. He's providing a greater collective environment for these higher spiritual energies to come into the planet, you know, to bring us back into that's part of the circuitry correction, bringing in these higher codes that work within the collective planetary system of consciousness so that people can connect into it. And that's part of that awakening process. They're connecting up into those higher grids of information that he and the celestials are building upon this planet. It's such a wonderful coordinated activity of spiritual infusions that, you know, one day I do believe we'll see what we call the movie of it all.
Well,
I'm waiting for that one to come out.
We're getting close to closing, so I want you to tell us specifically, we have questions about what you're doing Wednesdays and what you're doing Sunday, and are everything open, or are some of it for by donation? How do you operate, and how could someone join you?
Okay. I have a little button on my website to email us, so to join our membership. Our membership is free. The Sunday calls, that is the Planetary Transformation call, where we are working with our Father Michael and our magisterial son Manjaransan to help the planet ascend out of the rebellion. That's at 12 p.m. Eastern on the 2nd and 4th Sunday of the month. And you can see that on our calendar of events. And you can just email me if you want to be on the mailing list, and you'll get a copy of the recording and a written transcript, and then an invitation to join the call. And if you can't make it, then you can just listen to the recording and get a copy of the transcript. The Wednesday night prayer call is similar. We gather at 8 o'clock, and we are also connecting to our divine parents and holding a space for our planetary seraphim to also help bring in more of the higher circuits. It's a little bit of a different focus, but it's all designed to bring in the higher spiritual endowments that we need to outwork the erroneous thinking patterns within us. And then I do conduct a healing call, and that is an invitation for people who donate $25 on an annual basis or more, $25 or more. And then I have a women's core that evolved out of the book, The Women Who Love Jesus.
Great book.
And, thank you. And we gather in our women's core, and we focus on the people in our circle and hold for healing, physical healing, spiritual healing. And that is on the first and third Saturday of the month, again at 12. So we have a variety of calls during the month for people to join us. And then, of course, I do conduct personal sessions for people if they feel like they need a little bit more of a personal touch, you know, and help them open up to the higher potential for their soul purpose too.
Wonderful. And you are in Florida, so you are Eastern
time zone.
Eastern time zone.
Yeah, Eastern time zone. Yeah, everything's in Eastern time zone.
And you can find this on your website, instituteofchristconsciousness.org.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a delight, Donna.
Oh, I had so much fun. Thank you so much.
I know. I love having you here.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm glad that Byron introduced us. Byron Belitzos is, he's, I don't know how to describe Byron. I mean, he's a publisher, editor, and I don't know. I think he's a Urantia expert. Or, you know,
he is one of the most prolific writers in the Urantia community, wealth of information, dear friend, publisher of my books, and just a very, very dedicated truth seeker and spiritual warrior for our planet.
Wonderful. And he'll be back here, and I'm not sure exactly when, either October or November. And then next week, we have someone who's near and dear to you, and that's Teresa Marks.
Right.
And she did, when she was with us before, she did the Bill of Spiritual Rights.
Spiritual Bill of Rights, yes.
Spiritual Bill of Rights. And then she is coming back to give us part 2. So,
yeah, I'm very excited about that. Yes, she's a very dear soul, and her Spiritual Bill of Rights is such a timely document for humanity to understand who we really are in the context of our Creator. Yeah.
And we do have another question from Christy, and she would say, what is a book about women that Noel was blabbing about?
Well, you can read about it on my website. It's called The Women Who Love Jesus. When Jesus was here, he was very much appalled at the way the women of his culture were treated. So during his public ministry, he commissioned 12 women to be his female apostles who are on equal standing with the male apostles. They made contact with me in late 1999, and over a period of years, I worked with them energetically for healing purposes. And then it was in 2019, they asked me to write their story, because their story of how Jesus evoked a spiritual change in them to elevate them out of the conditioning of their culture so they could live their true soul purpose. And they formed a group of healers and ministers of the gospel. And it's a beautiful, heartwarming, touching account of how Jesus changed their lives and gave them back their divine dignity that their culture had denied them. And from that, they have asked me to kind of bring their story forward into the 21st century, because now it's time for women to take the spiritual leadership of the planet and to bring their story back to life and to return to the original gospel of Jesus, which is all about love, loving our Creator, connecting to who we are as part of our creative abilities, and loving service to humanity. And they want their mission to be completed through the women of the 21st century, so we can get this planet back on track. So yes, take a look at the book. It's on Amazon. And it's an easy
Okay.
read. And yes, I hope you'll check it out. Thank you.
It's really a great book. And Christy said, let me see, I'll find it. She was a presenter at Byron's Urantia conference on the Magdalene.
Oh,
And I also had some thank you from Grace. She really learned a lot and thanks you. And she said, love wins.
love always wins.
And Jackie says, thank you, really enjoyed this. Have to jump, but I have one other question. Why were women so disenfranchised and disempowered?
Well, that was the cultural conditioning of that time. And part of that is a holdover from the Lucifer Rebellion. Maybe another time we can talk more about that. But when you look at the way women have been treated in previous centuries as chattel, second-class citizens, that is all a byproduct of the Lucifer Rebellion, to keep the genders separated from really being complemental and collaborative, cooperative. And that was something that Jesus well understood on the planet, and he wanted to make a statement to restore women to their rightful divine dignity.
Right.
in
That,
that
that was a real popular idea back then. So was
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
More than an idea, it was a very ingrained mentality that,
Right.
it still lingers in some cultures on our planet. still.
Oh, absolutely. What's
Yeah.
happening in Afghanistan right now just tears my heart out. It's just,
Very, very sad what these
they're going backwards, and
poor
maybe
sisters.
that's even happening here, but as you said, there's going to be a separation, the wheat and the chaff.
Yep.
So evolve, as Barbara said, by choice or chance. I
Yes.
say choice. So thank you
Fingers
everyone
crossed.
for being here tonight. Donna, lovely
so
as
much.
always.
Thank you so much, Noel and Bob, and thank you everyone who came on. I really appreciate it, and I hope everyone got something of value. So I'll say
Absolutely. There
You
will be a
bet.
video put up pretty soon. You can always find it on the co-creatorsconvergence.com website. Good night, everyone.
Good
Night.
night,
Dreams.
everybody. God bless you.
Thank you.